Hey everybody, Amy and Lily here with Garden Up Landscape. Today we went to Costco and we bought some trees. I don't normally advocate buying trees from Costco or any plants for that matter, but trees especially because normally they're packed so close together that they get damaged. They're not that great a quality. But we thought, you know, you can't beat less than $20 for a fruit tree, so I thought I'd give them a shot. So to plant trees, you need a few things. Number one, obviously, is a shovel. You have to dig a hole, right? I have Lily's shovel as well, so she can help me, and her little hoe. I also brought a garden fork, just in case we hit something that really is hard to dig through. Planting compost. There's two schools of thought on this, and I agree with both. So if you're planting a tree, and you want the roots to spread out wide, then you want to plant it in the native soil so it has to search to find nutrition and to find those nutrients and the water that it needs to soak up. So you really don't want to dig a hole and then fill it with nice nutrient-rich compost and put the tree inside of that, because then you'll have a bowl with really yummy dirt that the roots will never have to leave. And so you'll have this tiny little root ball for a tree, and you really don't want that. For a healthy tree, you want the roots to grow out. But we're not planning on living here forever, and we're kind of thinking if we ever move, we might want to take these trees with us, which means it might actually be good for us to have a bowl of nutrient-rich dirt so that that root ball stays real small, and we can pick up these trees in a couple of years and take them with us when we move. So that's my thought. I'm going to experiment with it. We'll all touch back in a couple of years. So a few things to know about fruit trees, about the care and maintenance of fruit trees. One, you have to have a pollinator. So if you buy a tree from a nursery, you can ask the nursery attendant what kind of trees need to be planted together so that you can get good pollination on the tree that has the fruit you want to eat. Because you'll need to have one apple tree that grows the fruit you want. You have to have another apple tree of a different species to pollinate that one. And some are better matched than others. So you'll want to ask your nursery attendant about that. That's another reason I don't normally buy stuff from Costco, is because those folks, they're sweet and nice, but they don't know. So these trees hopefully have a pollinator variety in them already, so that the rest of the branches will give fruit. Another thing to know about fruit trees is the first 2 years that you plant the tree, you don't want to harvest fruit. You don't want to let it go to fruit. You'll let it flower, but any fruit that starts you actually want to take off, because you want the tree to focus all its energy on growing roots and leaves and branches. You don't want it to put energy into growing fruit for 2 years. So when you plant a fruit tree, don't let it fruit for 2 years. When I picked my trees, I was looking for good, solid grafts. They were well grown together. This is not great. This is they topped this one off, which a lot of nurseries will do. But other than that, the health of this is very good. The grafts are all solid, and there's no disease. You really have to be careful when you're buying Costco trees, or any trees, but the ones from department stores especially, because there are times when they just are not that great a quality. I did find one after I got home that had a scar on the side. I was trying to avoid that, but I ended up with one. Overall, I'm really happy with these trees that I bought. They're not the best quality, but you can't beat them. I got 5 trees for less than $100, whereas each of these trees of similar species, much better quality, but similar species, would have been $130 to $200 at a nursery. So we're gonna see what the roots look like when we open up these bags and what kind of quality these really are. So whenever you're picking up a tree, or any plant for that matter, it's very important to make sure to lift from the heaviest part of the tree. Never pick it up by the stem and swing it around, because you can break the whole thing. So I'm gonna open this now and see what's inside here. So just this makes me a little nervous, because I'm needing to have pliers to get this wire off of here. Means that this could have been really tight around the tree. It could have actually girdled the tree. But let's see what's going on inside. So inside we have sawdust, which I expected, and almost no roots. This right here is number one why we wouldn't buy Costco trees. They've cut off all of the anchor roots and they've left a few little feeder roots, but these feeder roots are so high they're too high. Whenever you plant a tree, you should plant it right at the level of the root flare. That's where the trunk starts to flare out with its roots. And that spot is right here. And the best feeder root on this entire tree is way up here. This is called an adventitious root. It's not a real root. It was extra growth after the fact because the tree was so stressed. There's enough roots in here to maybe feed this tree, but this is definitely not great. So without having any anchor roots and so few feeder roots, I'm definitely going to have to stake the tree, which is another thing I don't like doing, because it weakens the tree ultimately, but in this case, it won't even stand up if we don't do it. So, I'm going to go ahead and dig a hole and get started. When you plant a tree, you want the hole to be 3 times as wide as the root ball or the pot that the root came in. And then you want it to be the same depth from the root flare to the bottom of the pot where the roots are, with a little mound in the center. So the top of the mound to ground level should be the same depth as the pot. But since this has almost no roots in it at all, we're only going 4 inches down on this. I'm just going to set it in here, a little bit of a hole right here. There we go. Help me bury it in, Lily. Okay, now we're not burying the soil too high because we don't want to cover up that root flare. It's very important not to plant a tree too deep. Okay, now, one gust of wind and this thing's going to blow over. So I'm going to go get a couple of stakes.
What are stakes?
You'll see. Stakes will help hold the tree up. The important thing with stakes is that you not leave them on too long. It'll weaken the tree over time. So whenever using stakes, you want to make sure that the stake itself, if you're only doing one, is in the direction that the wind comes from. So our wind comes from right behind me. You can probably see my hair blowing. It's coming this way. So I want the stake to be between the wind and the tree so that when the tree gets blown, the stake takes it and holds the tree up. This is the best staking rope that you can get because it doesn't girdle the tree. It doesn't get too tight. Unless you leave it there for too long, don't do that. Basically, you just take it, you fold it, you put it in through there, and you've got a nice loop. So I'm going to wrap it around my tree about halfway up. I don't want it up here where it won't do any good, but I don't want it too low where it won't do anything either. So I'm going to take it, wrap it around. It does not have to be tight, just around there. So that's now solid, and this comes through. I'll probably want to cut this, but I'll put this right around here like that. So it's just snug on the tree, not tight, not girdling it, not strangling it, and not so tight that the stake is the one holding the tree up. The only reason you have the stake is to keep the tree from falling over in the wind. You never leave a stake for more than a year. It's not doing any good at that point. Okay, so I'm going to cut that, and then this tree, I'm going to water it in, and then this tree is done. So if I wanted to have more support, say I'm on a slope or I'm in a really windy place or something like that, I can use more stakes. You can put 2 opposite each other, or you can put 3 in a triangle. Any more than that's just overkill. You only need 3 if you're on a really steep slope and it's windy and the tree's gonna fall over for some reason. That's really the only time to use 3 stakes. And I'm hoping this tree gets established soon so I can take this stake down within the next year. Okay, let's go do another one. Again, no anchor roots whatsoever. Here's the root flare, so here's where we need to plant it, and there's all these adventitious roots up here. Just talk real briefly about what I've done here with the soil. This is a basin to hold the water in, so whenever there's water and rain or irrigation or just out of a hose or bucket, it holds the water near the roots of the tree so the tree gets the water it needs. This is a pretty important step. Of course, it also helps to settle the dirt so that you can add more to the base if needed. Just again, I'll reiterate, do not bury a tree too deep. It never ends well. Another thing you want to do on these kinds of trees is make sure the tags are not so tight that they girdle the tree. Usually they're not, but occasionally you buy one from a fast-growing branch that just gets too tight. You see it's already starting to girdle the tree right here. Hey gardeners, quick update on the Costco trees. I planted 5 and 1 is still alive. 1 of 5. Not a great success rate if you ask me, but I wonder if you'll notice the mistake that I made when I planted these. I found instructions well after the fact, and you know, we all learn at our own rates, right? That you should take Costco trees out of the bag and put them in a bucket of water to soak and rejuvenate the roots a bit for at least a half hour before planting. I didn't do that, and in fact I did the opposite. I exposed the roots to the air for a little bit too long, for at least a couple of them. So I think that accounts for a fair amount of the failure rate. But other than that, I didn't expect much out of them anyway, given how pathetic the roots were. But the one I have alive still is the apple that I planted in the back corner. It gave me fruit last year, which was pretty cool. There were only a few. I thinned them quite a bit, and they were really small. But they still, it was a little too soon for this tree to be given fruit. It bent the branches quite a lot. And then the weight of that early snow we had last year really did some damage on this tree. That's why it's leaning so far. So I might have to dig this up and replant it, straighten it a bit. I might do that on camera, I'm not sure. But in the meantime, I was not impressed with the quality of Costco trees, and so, you know, that was the point of the experiment.
So I have purchased some new fruit trees from a local nursery just north of town here, and so stay tuned for the video on that one. We'll do a full root wash and plant them correctly, pretty much replacing the trees that died, the Costco ones. So stay tuned for the video on that. And in the meantime, everybody, remember to subscribe if you haven't already, like the video, ask questions in the comments below, all those things, and I will see you in the garden.